The sky above Navarra burned with fire. Ships from the Thryn Empire sliced through the clouds like silver knives, leaving trails of energy behind them. Below, the floating cities of the Zetherians glowed in neon colors, reflecting off the dense jungles that stretched endlessly across the planet. It was a place of wonder and danger, and today it had become a battlefield. Captain Elias Drake tightened his grip on the controls of his starfighter. His human heart beat fast, but he did not panic. Years of training had prepared him for moments like this, but nothing could prepare him for the mission ahead. Beside him, the communications console crackled. "Captain, the princess is in the Thryn camp. She's in danger." The voice of Lieutenant Mara, his second in command, trembled. Elias didn't need to hear more. Princess Liara, the youngest daughter of Queen Vera, was trapped behind enemy lines. The Zetherian princess had always been known for her courage, but even she could not survive alone in the hands of the Thryn Empire. Elias knew what he had to do: set a course for the enemy's stronghold. "Hold nothing back," Elias said, his voice calm but firm. Mara hesitated, knowing the risk, but she obeyed. The starfighter roared as it plunged into the chaos. Lasers zipped past like lightning, some striking nearby buildings, sending glass and metal flying. Elias swerved, narrowly avoiding an energy blast. His mind was focused on one thing: get to the princess. Protect her. Inside the Thryn camp, Princess Liara struggled against her restraints. She had been caught during a scouting mission, and the Thryn soldiers were not gentle. Despite her alien strength and agility, she could not break free. Her violet eyes, glowing faintly in the dim light, scanned the area desperately. She had heard the rumors about the humans, the strange creatures from a distant star who were said to be brave beyond measure. She had never expected to see one in action. Suddenly, a shadow passed over the compound. A human starfighter descended, dodging lasers with impossible precision. Lyra's heart leaped. Could it be a human? Elias landed his ship with a screech, kicking up debris and dust. He jumped out, plasma rifle in hand, and charged forward. The Thryn soldiers turned, their eyes wide in disbelief. "Get down," Ilias shouted, diving in front of the princess as a blast of energy streaked toward her. The shot struck the ground where she had been, sending shards of rock and metal flying. Elias felt the heat on his back but didn't flinch. Protecting the princess was more important than his own life. Liara blinked in awe. This human. He was risking everything without hesitation for her. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, not even among the Zetherian warriors. Together, they ran through the camp, dodging laser fire and collapsing structures. Elias moved with careful precision, leading Liara to cover. Each step was calculated, every decision a matter of life and death. Liara tried to keep up, her alien agility helping. She realized that without Elias, she would not survive. They reached a narrow passage between two towers. Elias fired behind them, cutting down the Thryn soldiers who tried to block their path. Liara's hand shook slightly, but she did not falter. She had learned courage from her people, but now she saw courage in a different form. Human courage, raw and fearless. "Keep moving." "Almost there," Elias yelled, dragging her toward a shuttle hidden nearby. The Thryn forces were relentless. A soldier leaped from a higher platform, aiming directly at Liara. Without thinking, Elias pushed her out of the way, taking the blast himself. Pain seared through his side, but he did not cry out. Not now. Not when the princess was in danger. Lyra's eyes widened in shock. You saved me," she whispered. Elias managed a grim smile. "That's what heroes do," he said, though he doubted the word. He was just doing what he had to do. The shuttle's engines roared to life as they boarded. Elias secured the cockpit while Liara watched, still shaken but grateful. The ship lifted off, narrowly escaping a barrage of Thryn fire as they flew away. Elias finally allowed himself a moment to assess the damage. His armor was scorched, and a deep cut ran along his side. But he was alive. The princess was alive. That was enough. Liara looked at him with newfound respect. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. her voice soft but sincere. "You don't have to," Elias replied, focusing on piloting the shuttle through the storm of enemy fire. "Just stay alive. That's enough." The journey back to the capital was tense. Sensors detected Thrin patrols nearby, and every shadow could hide an enemy ship. Elias maneuvered the shuttle with skill that only years of human ingenuity could provide. Liara sat quietly beside him, absorbing everything's a human bravery, the strange ship technology, and the determination that refused to yield. Finally, the shimmering lights of Luminaris, the Zetharian capital, appeared on the horizon. Floating towers glowed under the twin suns, and energy bridges connected vast spires in patterns that looked almost magical. The city was alive, and its people were waiting. Word of Elias's heroics spread even before they landed. Crowds gathered, cheering, their voices echoing across the floating platforms. Liara stepped forward, her regal presence commanding attention. Yet her eyes remained on the human who had risked everything for her, Queen Vera. Tall and majestic, descended from her throne room balcony to meet them. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, rested on Elias. He stood tall, despite his wounds, his armor scorched and dirty, yet his posture unshaken. "You have done something remarkable," Queen Vera said, her voice smooth but powerful. "You have protected my daughter with your life. That is no small feat." Elias bowed slightly. "It was my duty, Your Majesty. I would do it again." The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile, one that didn't reach her eyes entirely. There was a spark of interest there, a glimmer of curiosity. Humans were unpredictable, and she admired that. Perhaps there was more to this creature than she had imagined. Lyra's gaze followed her mother, uncertain. She felt gratitude toward Elias, but now she also sensed a subtle tension. The Queen's interest in him was not just admiration. It was something else. Something that Liara could not yet understand. Elias, oblivious to the nuances of Zetharian court politics, focused on his immediate concern, healing and rest. But even as he walked through the palace corridors, he noticed the quiet whispers of nobles and attendants. The human hero who had saved the princess was already becoming a symbol not just of courage, but of possibility. That night, as Luminaris glimmered under the twin moons, Elias sat beside Liara in the palace gardens. Bioluminescent flowers illuminated the paths, casting soft colors on their faces. "You humans. You are strange," Liara said quietly. "You risk everything, even your life, without hesitation." Elias chuckled softly, wincing as he shifted his side. Maybe we just know how to survive. Survival and protecting others. It's worth any risk." Liara nodded, her violet eyes reflecting the glowing flowers. "I have never met anyone like you, Elias. I think I might start to understand why the Queen is so interested in you." Elias looked at her, not fully understanding her words, but sensing their weight. Humans often found themselves in strange situations in the galaxy, but this one felt different, important. As the stars above shimmered and the city below hummed with life, both human and Zetharian realized that this was only the beginning. The Thrin Empire would not forget this day, and neither would they. And somewhere in the shadows, Queen Vera's mind was already weaving plans that involved the human hero who had shielded her daughter with his very life. The night ended with a quiet tension. Elias, the human who had faced impossible odds, was no longer just a soldier. He had become a figure of hope, courage, and curiosity, bridge between worlds. And Liara, the princess who had witnessed his bravery, could not deny the deep respect and trust that had formed between them. Tomorrow, the galaxy would demand more from them. But tonight they survived. The Zetharian capital, Luminaris, glowed brighter than ever under the twin suns. Its floating spires shimmered with colors that seemed almost alive, and energy bridges arched gracefully between towers. The streets were filled with citizens celebrating their princess's safe return. But behind the festivities, quiet currents of tension flowed, tensions that only Elias could sense. He had spent the night in the palace's medical wing, his wounds dressed, but his mind refused to rest. Humans were used to danger, but court politics on alien worlds, were a different battlefield altogether. And now, the Queen wanted to see him. "Captain Elias Drake," Lyra said softly as she approached him. Her violet eyes were calm, but Elias sensed a weight behind them. "My mother has requested your presence at the Hall of Honor," Elias nodded. "I will go. But, Lyra, I am not a politician. I do not know your customs." Lyra smiled faintly. "You will learn quickly enough, and your courage will speak louder than any custom." The Hall of Honor was a massive chamber carved from translucent crystal. Bioluminescent veins ran through its walls, pulsing softly with energy, lighting the room in colors that shifted with every step. Zitharian nobles and dignitaries lined the sides, their eyes fixed on Elias as he entered. The human's armor, though battered, gleamed under the light, and his calm, confident presence drew both admiration and curiosity. Queen Vera stood at the far end of the hall, tall and imposing, her silver hair flowing like liquid starlight. Her piercing eyes studied Elias intently. She had seen many heroes, many warriors, but humans were unpredictable creatures, driven by something she could not yet understand. And this human, he had risked his life to save her daughter. That was no small thing. "Captain Drake," she said, her voice smooth and commanding, "you have done something remarkable. You have protected my daughter with your very life. Not many would dare to face the Thryn Empire as you did." Elias bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I had to. Princess Lyra's safety mattered more than anything else." The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "You value duty, courage, honor. These are qualities we hold dear among the Zitharians. But humans, you possess something more. Something wild, unrestrained, yet precise. I am curious, and I wish to know more." Elias nodded slowly, sensing the subtle test in her words. Humans thrived on challenges, and he had learned long ago that caution often kept a man alive. He kept his answers simple, honest, and firm. The Queen's gaze shifted briefly to Lyra, who watched silently from the side. Lyra's thoughts were a mixture of admiration and uncertainty. She was grateful for Elias, yet uneasy at the Queen's obvious interest. She had never considered that anyone could rival her place beside her mother. Yet this human stirred feelings she did not yet understand. After the ceremony, Elias was escorted through the palace gardens, glowing softly under the twin moons. The air was cool and fragrant with alien flowers. Lyra walked beside him, keeping a respectful distance, though she could not hide her curiosity. "Do humans often act like that?" she asked, her voice quiet. "Risking everything for someone else?" Elias chuckled softly, wincing as he shifted his side. "Some do, some don't, I guess. It depends on what matters most to them. For me, saving you was simple. I couldn't do otherwise." Lyra paused, considering his words. "I have seen many Zitharian warriors. Brave warriors, yet you are different. You do not fight for glory, or for power, or for fear. You fight for what you believe is right." Elias shrugged. "Maybe that is what being human means. We survive, we fight, but we also care. And sometimes caring is the hardest thing of all." Meanwhile, in her private chambers, Queen Vera observed the unfolding connection between human and princess. Her silver eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Elias Drake was a rare creature, loyal, courageous, clever, and completely unaware of how much influence he already held over her court. The Queen was intrigued, not just by his actions, but by his nature. If he could survive the Thryn Empire, if he could navigate the dangers of Zitharian politics, then he was more than a soldier. He could be a symbol, a bridge between their species. But her curiosity was not without its complications. Some nobles whispered behind closed doors, resenting the human presence. They feared his influence, his unpredictability. Yet others saw hope in his actions. A human had saved their princess, outwitting the Thryn forces. The balance of power was shifting. Queen Vera intended to watch closely. Days passed in a blur of formalities, training sessions, and cautious diplomacy. Elias learned to navigate the palace's strange customs, always aware of the queen's presence, always careful with his words. He noticed small tests in her questions, subtle hints of influence. And yet he remained focused on what mattered most, the safety of Liara and the well-being of her people. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Liara and Elias trained in the palace courtyard. Energy blades clashed in the glowing moonlight, sparks flying with each strike. Liara moved with grace and strength, but Elias matched her in ingenuity and instinct. They were learning from each other, understanding one another's strengths. "You are good," Liara admitted, panting slightly. "Better than I expected." "You are too kind," Elias replied with a grin, though his eyes remained alert. "But you are faster than most humans I have faced. Clever, too." Their laughter was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Red lights flashed across the palace walls. Sensors had detected an intruder. A Thrin assassin had infiltrated the capital. Panic rippled through the corridors. Palace guards scrambled to contain the threat. Elias's instincts kicked in immediately. "Stay behind me," he said, drawing his plasma rifle. "We need to find the source and neutralize it before it reaches anyone important." Liara nodded, her violet eyes fierce. "I will follow your lead. We fight together." The chase led them through winding corridors and floating walkways. The assassin moved quickly, but Elias anticipated every step, relying on human ingenuity and a sharp mind honed by countless battles. Liara's agility complemented his strategy. Together, they cornered the intruder in the royal gardens. The assassin lunged, a blade glowing with energy. Elias sidestepped, using the weight of his human body to push the attacker into a force field trap. Sparks erupted, and the intruder screamed. Immobilized, Queen Vera arrived moments later, her presence commanding immediate respect. She observed Elias and Liara, the human hero, standing tall, despite his wounds. The princess beside him, both victorious. "You humans. You never cease to surprise," she said, her voice calm but tinged with admiration. "Elias Drake, you have proven your worth not just in battle, but in judgment and courage. You protect, you plan, you lead." Elias bowed, acknowledging her words without arrogance. "I did what anyone would do in my place. My duty is to protect life." The queen's silver eyes softened slightly. She realized that Elias's loyalty was not to power or status, but to honor and protection. That was rare, even among the Zetharians themselves, and it fascinated her. After the incident, the court celebrated their heroes, but the undercurrents of intrigue remained. Queen Vera invited Elias to dine privately, a rare honor. The conversation was polite, yet charged with subtle meaning. She spoke of Zetharian history, of values, of courage, and finally, of the human himself. "I have watched your actions closely, Elias Drake," she said, her gaze steady. "You embody qualities we admire, qualities that our people rarely see. I wonder if you would consider serving Zetheria in a greater capacity?" Elias, cautious but respectful, replied, "I serve where I am needed, Your Majesty. But I do not serve power for its own sake. I serve people, their lives, their safety." The queen smiled faintly. "And that, perhaps, is why I am interested in you. You are not bound by fear or politics. You act with clarity and strength. You are unique among your kind and mine." Liara, standing quietly nearby, felt a mixture of emotions, pride, admiration, and a strange tension she could not name. She had always known humans were brave, but this human, he inspired something deeper. The night ended with quiet reflection. Elias returned to his quarters, his mind racing with thoughts of duty, honor, and the strange complexities of alien politics. Liara watched from her balcony, thinking of the human who had risked his life for her and of her mother, whose interest in him seemed to grow with each passing day. And in the shadows of the palace, whispers of new threats reached Elias's ears. The Thrin Empire was far from finished, and the human hero, caught between duty, honor, and the intrigues of a powerful alien court, would soon face challenges that tested not just his strength, but the very heart of who he was. The galaxy was watching, and humanity. through Elias Drake, was about to make its mark. The twin moons of Luminaris shone high above the floating city, casting long silver shadows across the palace gardens. The city had returned to its usual rhythm after the Thryn infiltration, but an uneasy tension lingered. Elias Drake, human hero of the Zitherian Empire, stood atop a sky bridge connecting two glowing spires, surveying the city below. He had grown used to these sights, the alien technology, the floating platforms, the hum of energy that powered the entire world. But his thoughts remained grounded on the threat that had not yet passed. Captain Drake. Lyra's voice called from behind him. She approached silently, her violet eyes reflecting both the moonlight and a quiet determination. "There is something you need to see." Lyra turned, noticing the unusual tension in her tone. "What is it?" She led him to the Royal Observatory, a vast chamber of crystal windows and holographic displays. Their readings from the outer sensors revealed a massive Thryn fleet approaching the planet. Hundreds of ships, far larger than those they had faced before, and at their center was a warship unlike any Elias had ever seen. Bristling with energy weapons and shielded by an unknown technology, "They're preparing for a full invasion," Liara said, her voice steady but urgent. "If they reach Luminaris, the city will be lost. The palace. Everything." Her words trailed off, but Elias understood. Elias clenched his fists. "Then we stop them. We've faced impossible odds before. We can do it again." Liara studied him, admiration and trust evident in her gaze. "I will fight with you, together." The queen, watching from her throne room, nodded silently. She had observed Elias since his first heroic act, and now she saw clearly what her instincts had told her. This human was extraordinary. Loyal, clever, fearless, and he would not yield, no matter the danger. The battle began at dawn. The sky above Luminaris was filled with the thunder of energy cannons and the flash of laser fire. Elias piloted a human-designed assault craft, faster and more maneuverable than the Zitherian ships, weaving through the Thryn fleet with precision. Liara flew beside him, her own craft glowing with energy as she launched attacks on enemy ships. "Stay close," Elias shouted over the comms. "We can't let them isolate any part of the city." The Thryn fleet was relentless. Each time Elias destroyed one ship, two more took its place. The alien technology was advanced, but human ingenuity proved adaptable. He coordinated strikes with the Zitherian fleet, anticipating enemy maneuvers and turning the Thryn strength against itself. Liara marveled at his skill. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Elias's strategy combined instinct and careful planning in ways the Zitherians rarely expected. Every move, every decision, seemed to turn the tide. Then, the massive warship loomed ahead, its shields reflecting their energy blasts. Elias's ship trembled under the pressure of its weapons. "That's our target," he said grimly. "We take it down, or Luminaris falls." Liara nodded. "We can do this. Together." They approached the warship cautiously. Elias noticed a weak point, a small vent near the hull, likely an energy conduit. It was tiny, nearly impossible to hit, but it was their only chance. "Cover me," Liara said, his eyes focused and unwavering. "I'm going in close." Liara positioned herself to draw the attention of the warship's guns. Energy beams struck around her craft, but she dodged with agility, returning fire whenever she could. Elias slipped through the chaos, maneuvering his craft with precision. The vent grew larger on his scope. He fired a concentrated plasma bolt. It struck true. The warship shuddered violently as the shields flickered. Alarms blared, and the enemy fleet faltered, uncertain how to respond to this unexpected human strategy. Elias didn't hesitate. Another shot. Then another. The massive vessel began to break apart, sections of it exploding in brilliant flashes of energy. The Thryn fleet, witnessing the destruction of their command ship, began to retreat in disarray. Liara raced to his side, cheering as the remaining enemy vessels fled. "You did it," she shouted, her craft spinning in a celebratory arc. Elias exhaled deeply. "No, we did it together." The citizens of Luminaris poured onto the floating streets, cheering their heroes. But amidst the celebration, Queen Vera observed quietly. Her silver eyes held admiration and a subtle sense of awe. She had offered Elias a place by her side, and now she knew his loyalty could never be commanded by titles or power. He served with honor, courage, and an unwavering sense of duty. Later, the palace gardens, the queen approached Elias privately. The glow of the bioluminescent flowers bathed them in soft light. "You have done more than I imagined, Elias Drake," she said. "You have protected my people, defended my city, and proved that humans are capable of greatness." Elias nodded, keeping his tone humble. "I did what I had to do. My goal is always to protect life. Yours, Lyra's, and the people of Zetheria." The queen's gaze softened. "And that is why I admire you. You are unlike anyone I have ever known. Brave, clever, and selfless. You could have power, influence, anything you desired. Yet you serve what is right." Elias looked at her, uncertain how to respond. He had no desire for titles or wealth. He only wished to protect those who could not protect themselves. "Your loyalty is remarkable," the queen continued. "It is rare to find such honor. Perhaps it is why I desire you close to me as protector and advisor." Lyra, who had quietly joined them, stepped forward. "Mother, he is already my protector. He saved my life. He is loyal to what is right, not to crowns or titles." Queen Vera studied her daughter, then Elias. A slow smile curved her lips. She understood now. Ilias's loyalty could not be commanded, only respected, and that was more powerful than any allegiance she could demand. "You are wise, Lyra," the queen said softly. "I will not force him. But I respect him, and I respect the bond between you." Lyra felt a mixture of relief and pride. She glanced at Elias, who merely nodded, acknowledging the quiet victory of trust and respect over politics and power. As the sun rose over Luminaris, casting golden light across the floating city, Elias stood with Lyra and the queen. The city was safe, the Thryn threat diminished, and humanity had proven itself once again through courage, ingenuity, and unwavering moral strength. The celebration that followed was magnificent. Citizens cheered, Zetherian and human alike, marveling at the bravery of the human hero who had stood against impossible odds. Children waved small banners, and elders spoke of Elias as a legend in the making. Lyra took Elias's hand, her violet eyes shining. "You risked everything for us. Not because of reward, not because of orders, but because it was the right thing to do. That is why I respect you so deeply." Elias smiled, feeling the weight of the day's events lift slightly. "I only did what anyone would do," he said humbly, "but thank you." "That means more than you know." Queen Vera approached, her expression gentle but firm. "Elias Drake, you have changed the course of our history. You have shown my people and me what true courage looks like. You are welcome in Zetheria, not as a subject, not as a tool, but as a hero. And that is a place earned, not given." Elias bowed slightly, acknowledging the honor without arrogance. "I am grateful, Your Majesty, and I will continue to protect this world as long as I am able." In the days that followed, Elias became a symbol across the galaxy. Humans were no longer seen as fragile or weak. They were brave, clever, and honorable. The Zetherians had witnessed firsthand what humanity could achieve. And the bond between species grew stronger. Lyra and Elias trained, fought, and learned together, their friendship deepening into a bond of trust that transcended worlds. And though Queen Vera's admiration remained, she understood the nature of true loyalty. It could not be forced, only earned. The Thryn Empire, defeated for now, retreated to plan their next move. But the story of a human who had shielded an alien princess with his life, who had outsmarted an empire, and who had earned the respect of a queen, would be remembered for generations. And in the quiet moments, when the twin moons reflected off the city's floating spires, Elias Drake allowed himself a rare thought: humanity, in its courage, its ingenuity, and its heart, had truly made its mark in the galaxy. The galaxy had seen the strength of humans, and it would never forget.